Hi, and welcome.
I'm Z,
And I'm Keith.
and we're going to tell you about the movie that we just watched. But first, a little bit of a heads up.
Some of the movies we watch deal with heavy subject matters.
In order to talk about these emotionally delicate things and the heavy subject matters that we sometimes cover, we add humor and crude language to add some levity and to process our own trauma.
If that doesn't feel fun or safe for you, we completely understand. Please take care of yourself first and foremost.
And we spoil the end of pretty much every movie that we watch.
Now you know. On with the show. Has no presence in the future.
I have no idea what you're trying to say. Is that a song?
Yeah.
Oh, is that by They Might Be Giants?
The Residents.
Ah, damn it.
You had about a 50-50 chance there.
It's true. It's true. Usually when you just randomly start quoting something that sounds almost like spoken word, it's...
That's true. That's usually...
They might
be giants.
Yeah. It did rhyme a little too much. I was a little worried I was going to be wrong, but... Razorback. This film was bonkers from start to finish.
Amen.
Wild. So basically the premise is just that there's a giant razorback that's killing people, and no one believes this dude whose grandson got killed by one, so they think he killed his own grandson. And then 2 years later, an American journalist, played by a totally American actor, goes to this town where that guy was, and she's trying to get not information, but she just like kangaroos, kangaroo hunting. She wants to do some kind of animal rights expose on it. And she ends up getting deaded by the razorback. And so her husband comes looking for her, and shit go crazy.
Shit go crazy.
And that's really the gist of it. Like, it's
just... the only other thing they had is the brothers.
Right. The brothers... Tell me, because this is something that I couldn't figure out quite, which I appreciate the fact that they didn't spell it out.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if I was reading the signals right. Did the brothers did they have some connection to... I feel like it was just repeatedly emphasized that they had some connection to the razorback.
The genesis of the... Well... And the main thing being that Jake Cullen is start with Pet Pack.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Unclear.
Correct.
Now listen, son. You and me, we got something in common. I know what you're going through. Then help me. No proof.
I'm not asking for proof. Just give me some place to start.
Try the Pet Pack cannery.
But then, when his wife gets killed, it's when they're there, and they're trying to cover it up, even though they're not, seemingly, it has nothing to do with them.
Well, except that they were gonna...
I mean, I know that, but what I'm saying is...
that's enough motive.
They started saying that she fell down a mine shaft.
Yeah.
For no reason. I mean, even if someone went looking for shit, if she was killed by a razorback, it's not going to lead back to them unless they have something to do with the razorback, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then when he finds Cullum's dead body, I guess, or the idea of a dead body, they never really show it.
Which apparently was there was a scene filmed that was
nice.
cut out.
Nice.
Also, her death was shortened.
Good. But he finds the lines in the dirt from where they're. So he's like, "Oh, you were there," or whatever. And I'm like, "So does that?"
Yeah, that was confusing.
Yeah, right. I'm like, "So are you saying that like they not necessarily control the Razorback, but like it follows them around?" I don't know. I couldn't really tell. There was that whole thing. I was like they're afraid of the Razorback, so obviously they're not the ones like in control of it because it kills them too.
Right.
But they also, everywhere they go, the Razorback is, and they know about it, and they lie about it for no reason.
Yeah.
Other than to be shitty.
Yeah, I guess that points to there was probably more there that just didn't get fleshed out.
I guess.
Was there and then got cut. Because apparently the execs didn't like it and thought it was too long, and some walked out at the screening for them when it got to the dog getting run over.
Yeah, that was harsh. That was hard. But
it's not graphic at all.
Well, no. I just mean it sucks, anytime they're like. But I'm also like, kudos, because if you are able to.
Yeah, it's impressive and interesting the choices made to. Because also the scene where, it's supposed to be Jake shooting a pig and it just falls down, that.
Yeah.
There's just a tripwire there that made it fall down. That's how they did that.
That's so
because
funny.
They didn't want to harm any animals.
It goes.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It literally looks like its knees buckled.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. But it's funny because there's all these carcasses everywhere the whole movie.
Yeah.
Which apparently were largely sheep carcasses. I don't know why that was easier or better than kangaroo. Ethically, to me, they're the same. I don't know.
Well, I think if it's like it's already there, then whatever. You're not.
Yeah.
So that might be why. Whatever. This is sort of where I don't want to say like I don't want to say I'm an animal rights activist because I think Moby has that one covered.
Thank God.
Vegan or whatever. Fucking dipshit. But like I don't believe in hurting animals. I don't believe in like the way that we like mass produce like things like dairy and milk and beef and all that stuff is in a lot of ways like not cool.
Yeah.
However, I feel like partially maybe because of, being indigenous, like I don't have a problem with people hunting. I don't have a problem with people doing things like
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things you can't make a
like,
I can't make a blanket statement about shit because of
for sure.
complications like that. As you pointed to with Moby, white people who are animal activists often care more about animals than they do black and brown people.
Correct. Right. And you could be like, oh, they care more about animals than humans.
Fuck was that?
That was all my stuff falling.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's like it's not humans, it's like literally like the marginalized people is who they don't care about. And like if you are more concerned with like the idea of harming an animal than you are with the reality of like what marginalized people go through specifically in this country, specifically so that you don't harm animals in your mind. It's very gross, But what I mean is and then
there's the cultural layers is the next thing I was going to point out.
Yeah.
It's just like how different cultures treat or relate to
But like I have, like I really like dead things. I have I have
That's just
pig
'cause you're a pervert.
fetuses, and I have opossum skull. I have like I'll have bones and feathers and all that shit, and I do it because not because I'm like, oh, death is around. Because I'm like, no, I love this shit. It's very cool. It's very like I like having, and I feel like growing up, like a lot of the ceremonial things that are use things like, animal pelts and
Yeah.
animal fur and feathers and things like that. And it's like it's all stuff that you take and you make something out of it, but it's like holy. It's not like it's sacred. It's not like
Yeah.
something you're taking and you're like, oh, I just like killed this animal because I wanted a new feather. It's not like that shit. It's just
Right.
like when you kill something, you use what it has
Yeah.
for the things that you need. And so like fans, like have you ever used a feather fan?
No.
That shit's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like
I can only imagine.
if it's so much different than like even a paper fan, like,
Yeah.
it's just feather. You're like, it's like, whoo, whoo, whoo. It's crazy. But like shit like that, like I'm never going to tell like my people, my cousins, my family, I mean that like not just literally, but like,
Yeah.
culturally
Extended.
to not do shit like that. So like,
There's
animal.
also arguments about like sovereignty, like
Yes.
food sovereignty, especially.
Yes,
but
correct.
like just
Yeah.
there's no case. Yeah, whatever.
That's what I mean. Like, I think like as long as like there's food scarcity, you can't hassle someone for not like being vegan or something like that. And what I mean by scarcity, like people will be like, "Oh, there's an overabundance." Maybe there's an overabundance, but not that's affordable or that people have access
Well,
to.
the scarcity is created to
Correct.
artificially to.
Right. But also it's like food deserts exist and
Right.
things like that. Like if you're poor and you live out in the middle of nowhere, you don't have access to just picking something up when you're hungry. Like you
Right.
have to like, if there's a snowstorm.
No, and I
you know.
used to be this person. Like I can't feel guilty anymore about
Yeah.
shopping at Walmart because it's cheaper. I
Yeah.
used to use all my food stamps on going to whatever food co-op I was nearest.
Right.
But of course, it didn't last.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? And
right.
that's not a diss on food co-ops because they.
No, yeah, because they allow you to use, but like
You know.
there's a what do you call it, like an obvious divide in what people can afford. Like if you want to go to a food co-op because they have your favorite blah blah blah, and so you use your food stamps for that, that's fine. But like that, you're not going to be able to
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow your way through your food stamps.
Right.
I love that she didn't even last a day on that fucking diet too.
Yeah, I only heard about that from you. I don't. That's all I know about it is from you saying she tried to make tacos and that.
She like literally
She
was like,
blew her budget.
she blew her entire budget on a meal and then gave up.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate her so much. Anyway, food scarcity. Yeah, I I don't know how to say this where it's not going to sound racist. No.
We should never let that.
Xenophobic?
You should never let that.
Or what
hold
is
you back.
it? What is it? Not
Jingoistic?
Jingo, yeah. I really don't understand how people
The romance of
of like
Australian.
yeah. And I mean this sort of the same sort of stuff will happen like here with like Mexico and like Arizona and shit like that, where it's like there's nothing anywhere.
Yeah.
And if you're, and yes, this will happen. I lived in Nevada and it's a desert and you will
Right.
die
Yep.
if you don't drink water. And I
Yep.
don't say that, I'm not using like metaphors, like literally someone, like there would be cases of people who were in the desert and were about a 45-minute drive from civilization and died because they did not make it to civilization in time to get like they didn't have water while they were like their car broke down.
Oh, I see.
And so they're walking and they die because they did not have water to drink. And so they're dead. Or even if they did, they ran out and they're dead. Like if it's summertime, like it would get like 130 degrees.
Yeah.
You can't survive in that. So I'm not saying like these things are unrealistic, but it's just like the way like I don't care. Let me rephrase. I don't enjoy seeing it, you know? Like I don't want to see people,
I think it's a very Western
it's,
man versus nature kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like I'm very grossed out by the whole like, you know, you shower once a week when you find a place that has running water. I'm like, that's I mean, yeah, I'm, you know, I don't know. I just have a hard time like romanticizing any of that stuff. It's like the Wild West, but you know, for the now. And I'm like, I don't know, you know. It's like when people like romanticize like period pieces, and all I think about is how someone's gunt stank. You know.
Yeah.
Gunch, one might say.
Trying to remember who it was. Anyway, yeah, and I think this period, you know, especially with shit like Mad Max,
Yeah.
the whole romance around a post-apocalyptic thing.
Right. Yeah. There's like
know.
a romanticization of like scarcity.
Well,
And-
yeah, it's rugged individualism, so of course that appeals to an American sensibility.
Right.
You know, a lawlessness. It's basically libertarian fantasies in a way. You know,
Yeah.
it's prepper
Yeah.
stuff like
Teotihuacan.
there's no rule. Yeah, there's no. That's a textbook post-peak
Yeah. Post peak oil mindset.
Yeah.
Malthusian catastrophe.
Yeah, I think that's the appeal to American audiences anyway.
Yeah.
That's the only reason. That's the only way I can explain the success of those things here. I mean, I do always, you know, we talk about this because you don't have it. I do feel some kind of kinship towards Australians that probably is unfounded. You know, it's basically based on stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, they're like colonial cousins. I don't have that with Canada. You know, like
Yeah.
I do have some little fetishization of
Yeah.
Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
And part of it, you know, I'm not, you know, growing up with this kind of media, you know.
But like, I don't, just to be clear, I don't feel that way about like any sort of like, Aboriginal, like it's strictly about like white Australian.
Oh, right.
Shit.
Yes.
I'm not talking about like anything that has to do with Aboriginal culture whatsoever.
Of course not.
No matter how it's, no opinion. I don't know enough about it to form really an opinion, but specifically what I'm talking about is like white people being like, oh, I am out in this, you know, like that, like so tan you're red.
Yeah.
And like,
and it's always,
you know,
it's the outback, you know, it's not.
Yeah.
That's just the middle of Australia.
Right.
The coasts are not like that.
Well, that's fair.
And that's where most people live.
Right.
Most white people.
Well, yeah. That's also the thing. I'm like, it's like a desert surrounded by beaches, and I'm like, that's okay. I mean, like a beach is cool,
I grew up in
but
Southern California. So.
it's not.
I get it.
It's like I'm not that. I don't really get why people are like, yeah, Australia. I'm like, okay. Cool. I mean, I do love Peach PRC. She's an Australian that I do enjoy.
People's Republic.
But other than that, I don't romanticize. I mean, she's hilarious, but like, yeah, when people are like, and I don't really, I don't know. It's very, yeah. I think it's probably unfounded, my sort of discomfort with Australian things. But it's like, it's not like, no, I mean, yeah, it's probably some sort of like, but it's only the white people. It's not like, it has nothing to do with anything about, the indigenous people from there. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't it, God, I can't remember that one movie. Was it, I think it's set in Australia where the sisters or the cousins or whatever that.
Sapphires?
Yeah, the Sapphires. Like,
yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I mean, even though it's probably watered down a little bit.
There's, the amount you can think of on one hand if.
Yeah.
The representation in media that makes it through to us. That
right.
Aboriginal.
Correct. Yes.
Indigenous.
Yeah.
I actually don't know, and this is already, like, I don't know how they call themselves, so.
Right. Yeah.
And I know there's an indigenous name for Australia that I won't ever remember.
I know. I always forget the New Zealand one, too.
Yeah, it's like Aotearoa.
Yeah, I don't remember. I hear it, and I'm like, that's not that complicated. I can remember
it's
that.
Not,
and then I'm like,
but I've never heard it said aloud, so that's one reason.
I have, and I was like, that's really easy. And now I'm like, what?
Yeah,
What's it? I don't fucking know.
And then the tiny sliver of a bit in Priscilla.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got. Of seeing Aboriginal folks represented in.
I will say, Quigley Down Under is one that and probably Crocodile Dundee a little bit too. Right?
Is there?
I don't know. I a little bit. There's probably some, like, just very. But I remember in Quigley Down Under, there's like a lot of sort of. I mean, they definitely do white saviorism in that, and it's funny because, like, the Aboriginal in Australia, it's painted as like how horrible they were treated and how they were just dismissed as being humans, basically. There's like a scene where they're just killing them, like just literally just like chasing them to a cliff and making them jump off.
Cool.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And Quigley, you're saying?
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, in that movie, they talk about how, like, how evil Comanches are and how, bloodthirsty and shit like that. Like, interesting. Oh, over there, that's really terrible what happened to them.
Look what they're doing.
Can't believe it.
Yeah, it's an Eric Andre
right.
meme.
Exactly.
Why would they do this?
Oh, my God. White people in a country they're not originally from?
Yeah.
Hurting the indigenous population? It's crazy. Anyway, have you seen those Comanches?
How could the Nazis kill all these people that they learned from us how to do?
Oh, God, I know.
You were going to say something.
I don't remember.
Oh, that's what it was.
I don't remember what I was going to say.
So, the director...
Well, I do want to say this, just because I know I'll forget. A term was used in this, which maybe this is sort of an indirect reference to what I'm talking about, but in the trivia, it talked about this is a movie that's considered like an Ozploitation.
Yeah.
So maybe that's sort of the phenomenon I'm talking about, where they like are glamorizing this sort of like, sort of idea of, low intelligence. Not everyone, but like, we don't really have anything, and we're, we just sort of exist mysteriously in this land, sort of thing. So maybe that's sort of the thing I'm talking about, where I don't know how to exactly put it into a category.
Yeah, that's a term. Any exploitation where exploitation is the suffix, I'm unclear. And so I don't use it because, like black exploitation, I just watched, I'm glad you said that because I did want to bring up this video I watched about...
Tubi?
Yeah, about the black films on Tubi. Tubi originals or independently produced.
Yeah.
I'll link to it, but it was a good... I had some issues with where it ends up, but I learned from it, and it talked, it talked about the complexities of those films that are on Tubi, which I didn't know was a thing until you mentioned it. And then, anyway, so blaxploitation being like, in the 70s there was independent black filmmakers.
Right.
Independently financed, independently produced, and some of those movies, and they were made for black audiences.
Right.
And some of them were successful. And then, Hollywood got hip to it and tried to make money off of it. So then you got, and then it's all it's all about pimps and pushers and
right,
shit.
right, yeah.
It's Shaft and
Gotcha.
It's,
yeah. Right. Missing the point, sort of.
Yeah, I was trying to think of another movie, but anyway, Superfly is what I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that one. I don't know where that one falls on the spectrum because I haven't seen it. But anyway, so Ozploitation, same thing. I don't know if it. I would imagine Crocodile Dundee would definitely be Ozploitation.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like it's curious because those are films that are like both made with real Australians.
Yeah.
But seemingly for an American audience,
right.
But you're like, is that what's going on?
Which ones are you referring to?
This one?
Yeah.
Razorback because like the star of Razorback is an American actor.
Right. He was on Trapper John. That's why he was chosen. Trapper John MD.
Unfamiliar. Never heard of this.
Well, what's wild is that Jeff Bridges was considered, and it's one of those things where it's like, you went for somebody who was a popular kind of TV star.
I was like, when they said like I guess
Jeff Bridges hadn't been in enough yet.
I was like, fucking Starman or whatever.
Yeah.
But that might have been, I remember watching that one. That probably came out around the same time as this. I remember watching Starman when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
And being very confused by it.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because it's so like I think it was like how sexual it sort of is. Like it's sort of like the Born Sexy Yesterday thing.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, he got her pregnant?
Oh God, I forgot about that. That's so
I'm
gross.
like, what? Yeah, I'm like, what happened? I was like, why did that happen? It was like, I was very uncomfortable with it. Because he was so, I think watching it as a kid, I related more to him.
Sure.
Because he didn't know things and he was curious. So I saw him more as childlike.
Right.
So then I'm like, he had that. I was like, that's weird.
Oh, that's right. He was in the 70s King Kong that I've never seen.
Oh, that's right. I've only seen the end of that.
Yeah, I guess he wasn't. Tron wasn't until 82. Starman was 84.
Yeah, that's the same year as this, so.
Right.
They were probably like.
Oh, right. I was singing 81. Anyway. Russell Mulcahy, the director.
Yeah.
Directed a bunch of music videos.
Right, for Duran Duran.
Yeah.
That's why the music was in there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he did the video for Hungry Like the Wolf and fucking Wild Boys, which is the one with that crazy ass set that looks Mad Max like, where he's like strapped to a windmill.
Oh, I don't remember.
He's all on a set. It's wild. And I think the one that they do on Venture Brothers with the St. Cloud with the,
yeah.
What's that called?
I can't remember, but yeah.
Maybe next year. Maybe no go.
St. Cloud.
And like the famous Bonnie Tyler one, where they did the, like 10 years ago, it was like they did the Honest Lyrics version. Oh, fucking.
No idea.
Bright eyes, turn around.
I don't really know what I'm sorry.
Okay.
Listeners probably know exactly what you're talking about. I just am confused.
Every now and then I fall apart.
Oh, okay. But he directed that music video?
Yes.
Oh, for that, not for Duran Duran.
No. I said Bonnie Tyler.
You said the one with, I thought you were saying the Duran Duran video that had Bonnie Tyler in it.
Oh.
Because I don't really know, I don't really retain her name.
Yeah.
I know that it's someone, so I was like, I don't really remember what TV shows she was in.
And he had a bunch of Elton John videos too.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
Ellen John?
What?
What? I said Ellen John.
Oh.
That's funny.
You did?
Yeah, because that's what it sounded like you said. Ellen John.
So I'll explain some of the editing.
Oh, yeah.
And so the thing I was struck by editing-wise was how fast some of the cuts are during dialogue scenes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, this is really fast for the time.
Yeah.
It felt fast now. I mean, I probably wouldn't notice if it was in a contemporary film.
Right. It was very clean in a lot of ways.
Too.
Like, I mean, editing-wise in how it...
It's fucking gorgeous. There's this amazing visuals.
Nuts. I was blown away. Like, the first... they do, like, weird sort of, like... They kill a kid first thing. That's always, no offense to children, but, like, when a movie does that, I'm like, they're not fucking around.
I said this, after that opening sequence, I said, this is a masterclass in, like, establishment, like, backstory, what's the term I wanted? Expose. Like, it's perfect. It's so efficient, and you don't need any more, and visually striking and dramatic.
Insane. Like,
and dude walking around. Ah!
Oh, God.
So crazy.
So there were a bunch of different fake pigs, obviously, Razorbacks made. One of them was fired out of a cannon, and that's what they used for that opening sequence. I don't know what that means, fired out of a cannon, but somehow projected. So that's how they got that effect of it plowing through the house.
Oh, my God.
There was another one that cost $250,000 to build that only ended up in a few frames because it was practically impractical to use because it was full-sized and it was...
Oh, man.
Somebody basically demanded of the special effects team that, like, no, it needs to be able to walk. And they were like, we can't do it. It's too huge.
Yeah.
And so they had this one that was like the whole Razorback, but it had a rod coming out of its ass because that's the only way, and attached to a forklift. And so, like, its legs moved, but of course it didn't look natural.
Yeah.
So it's only in a couple frames. And just like Cujo, they had a suit that they put a real pig in, which only worked in, I guess it's a shot where Beth has her camera and she sees the Razorback on the horizon and then it vanishes.
Yeah.
That was the only time that gets used.
I really loved the scene where Jake?
Cullen?
Yep. When he sees the Razorback for the first time. And because immediately I was like, isn't that the Razorback? And he's like looking everywhere for it. I'm like, isn't it right there?
Yeah, right.
And he's like, oh, and he's like, oh, and he's like almost crying. And then he finds it and he's like, That
dude was so good.
Oh my, I loved, when after the opening
Kerr.
after the opening sequence, I said semi-jokingly, best film of the month. That's hands down. And I don't know anymore if that was a joke. Like, honestly,
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
like,
see.
I don't.
The biggest flaw is the ending for me.
The ending.
As there isn't one, really.
Oh, yeah, I like that. I like when they don't wrap it up too neatly.
No, oh, yeah, I don't need it to be a bow put on it. It's just like felt rushed. And in fact, it was. That's.
Yeah. Well, I wish that there wasn't a freeze frame. I really hate when the credits go on a freeze frame. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Please stop doing that 30 years ago. Please.
Yeah. Could you guys not?
Could you just not?
I mean, it's
if it happens in any movie nowadays, I'm like instant garbage in the trash. Jail, all of you. Like, that's something that should have been.
People do it unironically?
I don't know. I just assume that someone, if that ever happened nowadays, just.
Do I need to go through the trash to prove this point? Yeah. I was going to say that it does have some things in common with Cujo. Pretty similar ending.
Yeah, you're right.
Except for, instead of getting shot, first he gets impaled and then killed again.
Yeah. Man, that was
winter.
Wow.
Actually cold when it looked hot.
Yeah. It never really looked hot.
Sarah, that actor that played Sarah, died from adrenal gland cancer in her late 30s.
Oh my God.
Dee Wallace has to be on drugs for adrenal depletion after working on Cujo. So she has since.
It's like parallels.
It's like
literally
one for
the
one. Same movie.
That was the thing. I was like, it doesn't
Based on a novel?
It really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Loosely.
It doesn't look cold, or it doesn't look hot. Like, that was the one thing. Like, everybody seemed to be like.
Yeah, wearing a lot of clothes.
Yeah, wearing a lot of clothes and
didn't
really seem sweaty in any way.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like, when he huddles the dead kangaroo.
Oh yeah.
I was like, yeah, I don't feel like it's summertime here. I just don't.
Well, that's the thing about deserts, even they can get very cold at night.
It can get chilly at night, but I don't feel like you're gonna be if it gets cold enough that you're gonna die of exposure.
Yeah.
From the cold.
Yeah, nothing in the film states that it's not winter.
Yeah. Right, and everybody's wearing long sleeves for the most part. I'm like, I don't think you would be doing that if it was summertime.
Yeah. So. I was kind of stretching there with the Cujo comparison on that one.
Oh, I know.
On that particular point.
You were just that one? I felt like you stretched it wide. Which isn't your first time stretching it wide. Because you take such a large
director of
shit.
photography. His name. He had worked on The Road Warrior. Dean Semler. And then, I don't know, the trivia on this, he won an award for cinematography working on Dances with Wolves. I saw two different things. One that was in the trivia, IMDb trivia, it says Russell Mulcahy, but then I watched a video that said it was Dean Semler, who, after this film, got a call from Steven Spielberg, and they thought it was a joke, so they hung up on him, and then he called back.
Hey, this is Steven Spielberg. Fuck you.
Good one. Dean. Who else? Oh, special effects guy, I think, also worked on The Road Warrior. Dean Semler also worked on... Bob McCarran is who I'm thinking of. Did he work on... He worked on The Matrix. He worked on The Road Warrior. Vertical Limit. Gene Semler worked on Beyond Thunderdome, which is the one that George Miller's cameraman, who had worked with his entire career up until then, had died in the middle of production in a helicopter crash. And so he didn't finish working. The rest of the film went on without him because he couldn't.
Yeah.
He was grieving.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you get it. Would you recommend the film?
Absolutely.
Yeah, same.
Definitely, it's gorgeous. There's so many interesting visuals.
Yeah.
It's not in the same category as visual type, but it's up there for me with any of these Ken Russell movies we've watched.
Yeah.
As far as visual impact. The whole dream sequence where he's going through the dried lake bed or whatever, and stuff like that, that was a double because that was shot after production had wrapped.
Wow.
Also, yeah, like they didn't have an ending. They eventually wrapped on filming in Australia, so the final sequence at the pet pack, that was all a set in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
The pet pack in Australia was an abandoned abattoir. It looked so its silhouette was so comical to me. I thought that was an intentional.
Yeah. Wow. That's wild.
No, it was an abandoned abattoir. On the set though that they did for the final sequence, they had all those carcasses and they started to smell because it was multiple days of shooting and they would ice them at night, but then they were hanging up all day inside, with the lights on them and shit.
No. Oh no. Oh God, that's not fun.
Yeah. So they basically ran out of money and didn't have an ending, and so they were just like, okay, this is our last day to shoot. We just have to do it, and so that's how they came up with the ending. And
I mean, bravo, honestly, knowing that.
The studio, I think, then pressured them to add the thing where he finds Sarah.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't in there, I guess.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was wondering, I'm like, how'd she get passed out in a chain up in the rafters somewhere?
Yeah.
And then
I think
down?
I think it's supposed to be the chain that pulls up the door. That's the sense I made of it, but
then she fell.
When?
In front of him. That's how he found her.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So, but the door wasn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, it doesn't have to make sense. Nor should it.
That's fair.
But yeah, like the shit with the flares when he's walking at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the different colors they do.
Yeah. The fucking.
Sequence. No, horse skeleton or whatever the fuck it is with the wig on it.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening? Ooh. And like, all that sounds bad. And I'm not saying it was not bad, but like in a good way. It was wild. Like, it's unexpected. Like, there's so many things. Yeah. That was unexpected. Right, exactly. And when that was happening, I was like, oh, God. And then he wakes up, and I was like, oh. Yeah. Usually I don't enjoy dream sequences, but when they're like, that felt like a fear dream, like that he was going to be walking forever. I'm like, really? We're doing that where he's just walking and walking and walking? Yeah. I'm like, this doesn't even look like where he's at. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably what I would be dreaming if I was passed out after getting.
Well, what I like too is like, I mean, it's a little lengthy, and you can argue that maybe that could have been shortened to let other things happen. Like, I'm sad, and I was bummed to learn that Cullen's death was more explicit. Like, the pig eats his face off. So they cut that out.
Oh man!
And that, something about whoever finds it, whichever one of them finds him. There's a scene there too that's more graphic. I'm like, oh, that would have been nice. Yeah. I mean, it's okay, like clearly you understand what happens. But but he has, like when he has to sleep on the kangaroo
Yeah.
He wakes up, he's having little anxiety
dreams,
nightmares there.
But they're coming back.
Yeah. All those were very effective. And those crazy-ass transitions, like the crow and...
The fucking thing coming down, like the oil thing or whatever, the rig.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like a backhoe, wasn't that what it was?
I don't know if I can remember.
Like a shovel?
I don't remember what it was. It just reminded me of those.
And then those like tracer effects, where it's like...
Yeah.
I don't know what to call that. Anyway, some really stuff I've never... Like some of those, like the way those transitions go, I don't know how they did that. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it.
Yeah.
And the tracer effects... it's not something you want to use too much of at once, I don't think, but I felt like it was very effective. And
yeah.
Their fucking truck, the brothers.
I liked all the vehicles.
Yeah.
That was wild. And
the car he borrows from the innkeeper, the bartender. Got no trunk on it, and it's a convertible. And
not Dookie, but the other one. What was the other brother? It was like Dookie and Stinko or something.
It was Dicko and...
Okay. But the other brother, not Dicko. I was like, I love his fashion. Like that floral shirt, and then he has that like fuzzy one that he's wearing. I was like, damn, I'd wear this shit.
Yeah. Well, I liked Dicko's fashion in the beginning where he's wearing like that turtleneck and that blue blazer and shit.
That was... Oh, Dicko, yeah. Yeah.
And then
I just hated Dicko so much.
Oh, yeah. And apparently that dude stayed in character.
Yeah.
Showed up to set with one side of his head shaved because his character got ringworm.
Yeah.
Something he made up on. And he got kicked out of the hotel they were staying in.
Yeah. I'm like, don't do that. I hate that shit so much. Right. Yeah, it was hard for me.
And then he mailed a dead rat to
Harley Quinn. And he raped someone. Just staying in character.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Trying to remember what else I wanted to say about it. It's just so good. It's very satisfying.
Yeah. I was so worried because I was like, I was invested, but I like...
Oh, yeah. We started a little late.
My meds kicked in about halfway through, and I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
I almost said, can we wait till tomorrow? Yeah. Just because I was like, I don't want to not... it was like good enough that I was like, I don't want to not. Sometimes when I'm sleepy enough, I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
And
I know. When you first asked how much is left, and we were like halfway through, I was like, oh shit, I'm a little nervous.
I was like halfway. I was like, this is gonna. I think that's about all I could do. If it was less than halfway, I was gonna be like, kill me.
Yeah,
I thought we might be like, maybe like a tenth of the way in.
Oh.
Because I could see that. I wasn't sure how long of a movie it was, and I was like, I could totally see this being one that's like, just takes its time and like has like an epic,
Yeah, right.
Because it does a lot.
Right.
So I was like, this, it's, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, you could easily see it being one of those, that type of film. But, I think, I didn't even think about it, but the video I watched pointed out that there wasn't a whole lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so a testament to the storytelling, the visual storytelling that...
Yeah.
I forgot about the whole scene that's like his trial or whatever, Jake Cullen's trial at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's wild. I don't know.
But that's
how about the camel? There's a guy with a camel.
That's what I was saying about them lying about. They're like, oh, there could never be a Razorback. Obviously, they know it existed because they were lying about it.
Okay.
Remember, Dicko, he testifies. He's their expert. He's their Razorback expert that testifies that it's impossible.
How large would a Razorback have to be to actually carry a 2-year-old child over any distance?
About 4 or 5 times bigger than anything I've seen or heard of.
Yeah. You worship for an animal to have grown to such an extraordinary size. He must be extremely shy and cunning, or else...
Even an exceptionally large and cunning beast couldn't have dragged the boy.
Where to?
Anywhere.
No, not for any distance. See, the Razorback's a kind of cowardly bastard, usually a good... scare him off.
But then they are very clearly lying about it later on. So you're like, I mean, like you know that they're aware that the Razorback exists.
Yeah.
And they keep lying about it, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. But I know it's late in the episode to be giving a warning, but like there's a lot of animal carcasses.
Yeah. Animal poop. There's a lot of poop. It's got a lot of poop in it. There's a lot of poop. There.
Oh, dude dislocated his shoulder doing that
fall. When the
windmill
tower
fall,
falls.
yeah. Because apparently he did his own stunts.
I know! He did his own stunts.
Yeah, a lot of animal parts, a lot of dead animals, a lot of cutting up of animal carcasses. And then, before she dies, Beth it seems like she's, Dicko's going to do an essay.
Yeah.
So,
he kisses her. That's a really awful part where he kisses her. He puts his mouth on her face.
How's the French kissing?
Oh, Dicko's disgusting.
Yeah.
It was really hard for me because when he first grabs her out of the car to assault her, he has literal snot dripping down his face.
Yeah.
Oh, that I legit. And then when he goes to kiss her, I'm like, I honestly feel like I like how she's being essayed, and I'm like, snot. I'm gonna be sick. I've been essayed before, but not with snot. That's fucking disgusting.
That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you can refrain on making it too realistic.
Yeah, that's good enough.
Is it?
Well, you got more to say, tough guy?
Never.
The way those transitions go